Stop scrolling, you're wasting your life. You clicked on this video because you know you're capable of more. You have big ideas, a business to launch, a book to write, a skill to master. But somewhere between the idea and the action, the friction starts. You hit the wall of procrastination. What if I told you that the secret to a 10x workflow isn't time management? It's mindset mastery. It's not about forcing yourself to work harder. It's about designing an environment where flow state, that magical, effortless focus, becomes automatic. Today, we are diving deep into the psychology of flow, and I'm going to give you a framework you can use starting right now. We call it the 3R method for anti-procrastination. This isn't just theory, it's the blueprint that transformed the career of a top architect, a story we'll explore today. The biggest myth in high performance is that you need to be motivated first. You wait for the feeling, right? You say, I'll start when I feel inspired. But motivation doesn't lead to action. Action leads to motivation. Your goal isn't to start a task. Your goal is to bypass the emotional gatekeeper that screams, this is too hard, when you sit down to work. Think of this internal resistance not as a moral failing, not as laziness, but as a simple neural block. It's your brain protecting you from perceived effort. The 3R method is the psychological crowbar we use to pry that block open and enter the zone. Now let me tell you about Marcus. Marcus was an architectural genius. He designed buildings that won awards and redefined skylines. But outside of his fame, he was paralyzed by his most important work. His firm gave him the contract of a lifetime, the Zenith Tower, a project that required months of uninterrupted, deep focus. Marcus spent his mornings scrolling through material suppliers, organizing his email, or watching endless productivity hacks on YouTube. Sound familiar? He was a master of high-level, low-value distraction. He knew the why, the huge project, the massive payday, the legacy, but he couldn't bridge the gap to the how. The work felt too big. The first sketch felt too permanent. The pressure was enormous. He was losing time, losing sleep, and worst of all, he was losing momentum. The closer the deadline got, the more intense the resistance became. His team needed the master blueprint, and all they had was an empty screen. Marcus needed a system to flip the switch from panic to productivity. He needed to stop viewing the Zenith Tower as one impossible final project and start seeing it as a series of simple, irresistible next steps. This is where the 3R method comes in. Pay close attention because this framework is the core takeaway of this entire video. The 3R method is designed to dismantle that neural block by shifting your perception of effort. It stands for reduce, reframe, and react. Let's break down the first step where Marcus finally started moving. R number 1, reduce the initiation barrier. Your brain procrastinates because the first step feels too heavy. Marcus looked at the Zenith Tower design and thought, I need to create the entire structural foundation. That's a 10-hour job. It's too much. The solution is to reduce the time commitment to a level that is impossible to resist. We're talking about the 5-minute rule, not a promise of 5 minutes, but a commitment to 5 minutes of pure focus. Marcus stopped trying to design the foundation and told himself, I am only going to open the software and draw the first 3 lines of the floor plan. That is all, 5 minutes. Then I can stop. By reducing the scope to a ridiculous degree, he lowered the activation energy to 0. There was no pressure. There was no pain. He tricked his brain into thinking, this is just a warm-up. This is safe. And what happened? 99 times out of 100, once you're in the chair and your hands are moving, those 5 minutes turn into 50. The act of starting is everything. The initiation barrier is the only thing that separates you from flow. Reduce it to the size of a coin. Take your current biggest challenge right now, your thesis, your coding project, your sales calls, and ask yourself, what is the most shamefully simple 5-minute version of the next step? Not write a chapter. It's write the first sentence of the chapter summary. Reduce the friction. Marcus applied this ruthlessly. Every day, the goal was not finish a section. The goal was start the timer for 5 minutes. The consistency of this tiny act rebuilt his confidence and his momentum. But here's where most people stop. They reduce the task, they start, and then they get distracted. The novelty wears off. They fall back into the procrastination trap because the next logical step, the bigger challenge, still feels heavy. That brings us to the second and arguably the most crucial step in the 3R method. R number 2, reframe the difficulty signal. Your brain processes deep work as a pain signal. When you start grappling with a complex problem, like how to integrate the ventilation system into Marcus's impossibly sleek tower design, your brain registers stress. That stress triggers the urge to escape, to check Instagram, to eat a snack, to do anything easy. Most people see this discomfort, this friction, as a sign they should stop. That's the wrong signal. That's the mind lying to you. You need to reframe that feeling. You need to change the meaning of the struggle. Marcus learned to do this by adopting a mantra: friction is calibration. When the problem felt hard, when the frustration spiked, he wouldn't stop. He would mentally say, "Ah, good. This feeling means I'm not doing something pointless. This feeling means I'm nearing a breakthrough." He reframed the struggle not as a failure state, but as a biological confirmation that he was engaged in high-value, high-complexity work. This is fundamentally a psychological trick. When you feel the urge to quit because the problem is difficult, you must interrupt that pattern. Don't let your brain automatically link difficulty with escape. Instead, link difficulty with progress. Think about it. The shallow, easy work, the email, the scheduling, the pointless meetings never triggers that feeling of pain. Only the work that truly grows you does. So when the feeling of struggle hits, you've got to treat it like a gym routine. When your muscles burn, you don't quit the set. You realize the burn is the signal of growth. You lean into it. Marcus used a simple visual cue for this reframing. He kept a small, bright red stress ball on his desk. Whenever he felt the urge to abandon the Zenith Tower design for a trivial task, he wouldn't pick up his phone. He would squeeze the ball and repeat his mantra: friction is calibration. It's a physical anchor to a powerful mental shift. By consistently reframing the pain signal, Marcus essentially reprogrammed his brain's reward system. The struggle no longer prompted escape, it prompted deeper engagement. He started looking forward to the hard parts because he knew that's where the architectural magic, the real, high-leverage thinking happened. This is the power of cognitive restructuring, changing the story you tell yourself about reality. Your work isn't difficult, it's worth the effort. The struggle isn't a dead end, it's a detour to discovery. So that's our number 2, reframe the difficulty signal. It's the mental armor that protects your focus once you've started the work. Now, how do we keep the momentum going? How do we stop the endless cycle of starting, struggling, stopping, and restarting? That's the function of the third and final step, the step that makes flow state not a happy accident but a predictable outcome. This step is critical for ambitious people because your work doesn't stop. You don't just finish the Zenith Tower and quit. You need to instantly translate momentum from today's work into tomorrow's launchpad. You need R number 3. We've covered the start and the struggle. Now for the end game, the step that guarantees tomorrow's success today. This is the difference between a one-off productive day and a life built on momentum. This is our number 3, retreat with an immediate anchor. Most people finish their work session when they've hit a wall, exhausted and defeated. That's a huge mistake. When you stop because you are tired, you're anchoring the feeling of fatigue to your desk. The next day, your brain says, "Don't go back there, it was painful." The key to achieving flow state predictably is to retreat at the peak of your momentum. You must stop when you know exactly what the next step is and stop while you still have energy left in the tank. This is your immediate anchor. Marcus learned that when he finished a complex section of the Zenith Tower structural planning, he shouldn't tidy up and close the file. Instead, he would use the last 2 minutes of his session to do one simple thing: define the next 3 lines of code or the next single sentence of text. He'd leave a literal half-finished task on his screen, a note that said, "Tomorrow, find the tensile strength for material X." It was a small, irresistible invitation. Why does this work? Because of the Zeigarnik effect. Our brains hate unfinished business. By stopping mid-flow on a small, clear step, you create a powerful cognitive tension. You are actively setting a hook for your future self. When Marcus sat down the next morning, he didn't have to fight the initiation barrier all over again. The work wasn't start the Zenith Tower. It was finish this one simple calculation that I already started yesterday. It's a guaranteed on-ramp straight back into the deep focus you worked so hard to create. The anchor is an arrow pointing straight back into flow. It guarantees that the first action tomorrow is not a struggle, it's a simple reaction to an established pattern. Retreat with an immediate anchor. This is the final piece of the 3R puzzle. By mastering this, Marcus stopped having to rely on motivation or inspiration. He created an unstoppable chain of productive days. He finished the Zenith Tower on time, and the results were the best of his career. Actionable summary: the 3R method. Let's put it all together. The procrastination killer isn't a silver bullet. It's a system of self-management built on psychological principles. The next time you feel the resistance, deploy the 3R method. Reduce the initiation barrier. The goal is not to finish. The goal is to start for 5 minutes. Make the first action laughably simple. Marcus drew 3 lines. Reframe the difficulty signal. When the struggle hits, do not quit. Reframe the discomfort as proof that you are doing meaningful work. Friction is calibration. Marcus squeezed the red stress ball. Retreat with an immediate anchor. Stop working when your momentum is high and leave a single, defined, half-finished task for tomorrow. Let the Zeigarnik effect guarantee your return to flow. Marcus left the tensile strength calculation unfinished. The greatest tragedy isn't failure, it's unrealized potential. You have the talent. You have the ambition. The only thing separating you from your 10x output is the management of the emotional friction you feel when you sit down to work. Remember this: flow is not a gift. Flow is a consequence of smart design. You're not trying to find discipline, you're trying to engineer an environment where discipline is the only logical choice. This week, I want you to apply this framework to your hardest project. I want you to stop waiting for inspiration and start manufacturing momentum. Don't just watch this video and nod. This is your mindset momentum homework. Today, take your biggest task and reduce it to a 2-minute step. Do it right now. We are building a community of high-leverage entrepreneurs who refuse to waste their potential. If this framework resonated with you, if you're ready to make flow state your default setting, then hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Tell me in the comments, what is the immediate anchor you're setting for your work session tomorrow? I want to see your specific next step. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for doing the work. Now go out there and build your Zenith Tower. We'll see you next time on Mindset Momentum.